Welcome to this explainer. Okay, be honest with me for a second. Are you watching this with like 20 different tabs open right now? Have you already felt that phantom buzz of a notification in your pocket? If you're constantly wondering why you just can't seem to sit down and focus on a single thing anymore, I want to start by totally validating that struggle. You are absolutely not alone. So many of us are dealing with this intense sense of digital overwhelm and completely fractured focus. It genuinely feels like we're just endlessly running on a treadmill of distractions, doesn't it?
So we have to ask ourselves a really crucial question. Did we suddenly just lose our attention spans? Like, did the entire human race just wake up with a massive lack of personal willpower? Well, the answer is no. This shrinking attention of ours is not a personal failure. What the research actually tells us is that we are experiencing a systemic hijacking by the attention economy. Massive environmental changes and these incredibly smart algorithm-driven tools are actively and aggressively fighting to steal your focus every single second of the day. And to really wrap our heads around how intense this battle is, we have to look inside the brain. Dr. Anna Lemke, she's a psychiatrist at Stanford Medicine, uses this terrifying but frankly incredibly accurate metaphor. She calls the smartphone the modern-day hypodermic needle, delivering digital dopamine for a wired generation. Let that sink in. We aren't just dealing with a few bad habits here. We're dealing with an engineered neurochemical reality where our screens are literally acting as delivery devices for addictive stimuli. All right, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. Number 1, the stolen attention crisis. 2, your brain on social media. 3, the cost of shallow work. 4, resetting your dopamine pathways. And finally, number 5, batching tasks and deep work. Let's jump right into section 1, the stolen attention crisis and our collective loss of focus. In his fantastic book, Stolen Focus, author Johann Hari shares this deeply emotional anecdote that just perfectly captures the crisis we're in. He took his godson, Adam, to Graceland to fulfill a childhood promise. They were standing right there in Elvis's legendary jungle room. But Adam wasn't even looking at the room. He was literally hiding in the corner, holding his phone under his jacket, just desperately scrolling through Snapchat. He couldn't even look up long enough to experience reality. Hari calls this the Graceland wake-up call. And honestly, it's happening to all of us. These devices are constantly, relentlessly pulling us right out of the present moment. Brace yourself for this number, 47 seconds. According to incredibly extensive data from researcher Gloria Mark at UC Irvine, that is now the median human attention span on a single screen. Just 47 seconds. To put that into perspective, back in 2004, that number was 2.5 minutes. Our ability to sustain any kind of meaningful focus is absolutely plummeting, just fracturing into these tiny, frantic slivers of time. Moving on to section 2, your brain on social media and the underlying neurochemical reality. So, getting back to Dr. Lemke, here is the absolutely crucial concept you need to understand, the dopamine deficit state. Social media algorithms are literally designed to feed us endless novelty and variable rewards, and that triggers massive unnatural dopamine spikes in our brains. But here's the catch. Our brains inherently crave balance. So to adapt to those unnatural spikes, your brain actually drops its natural baseline level of dopamine. You get plunged into a chronic deficit state. Basically, you become physically less able to experience normal, everyday pleasure. And that leads to anxiety, depression, and this pervasive sense of learned helplessness. It's wild, but our constant scrolling is fundamentally altering our brain chemistry. And it actually gets worse when we try to do our jobs like this. MIT neuroscientist Earl Miller has definitively shown that multitasking, it's a complete delusion. You aren't actually doing two things at once. Your brain is just frantically switching back and forth between them. In neuroscience, this is known as the switch cost effect. Constantly reconfiguring your brain to, say, check a quick text and then jump back into a complex spreadsheet, that drops your cognitive performance by a staggering 20%. You are literally slowing yourself down and making yourself less effective in real time. Which brings us nicely to section 3, the cost of shallow work and the very real price of distraction. Here is a statistic that should honestly stop you right in your tracks. 23 minutes. That is precisely how long it takes to fully refocus on a complex task after just a single interruption. Think about that for a second. If you're glancing at Slack or checking your email every 15 minutes, mathematically, you are never actually reaching a state of deep, productive focus. It creates this massive, invisible tax that completely eats away your entire workday. Georgetown professor Cal Newport brilliantly breaks this dilemma down by splitting our efforts into 2 buckets.
deep work and shallow work. Now, deep work requires uninterrupted concentration. It's cognitively costly, sure, but it's what actually compounds your real expertise and creates meaningful value in the world. Shallow work, on the other hand, is just logistical, answering emails, updating a quick spreadsheet, stuff you can easily do while partially distracted. Obviously, we need to do both, but here's the danger. Shallow work is incredibly greedy. If you let it, it will expand to fill absolutely every single open gap in your schedule. When we look at our own human cognitive architecture, the biggest takeaway is that our working memory, that's the part of our mind that actively processes new incoming information, is severely, severely limited. It can only hold a few items at any given time. It's kind of like a tiny bottleneck. So when you bombard that bottleneck with an endless barrage of digital notifications, you immediately exceed its limit. You hit cognitive overload. And when that happens, your ability to learn, to problem solve, and to maintain deep focus completely breaks down. Because our cognitive load is so constantly maxed out these days, a lot of us turn to digital tools and AI to help ease the burden. But we have to be super careful here. There is beneficial offloading, where you outsource extraneous, tedious tasks. Think of having an AI check your grammar, right? That frees up your mental energy to focus on crafting your core argument. But then there's detrimental offloading, like asking AI to just write the whole essay for you from scratch. That bypasses the intrinsic, difficult but necessary work of learning and critical thinking. So please, don't feel any shame for using tools to protect your mental energy. But whatever you do, do not let them completely steal your ability to construct your own knowledge. All right, let's talk about how we fight back. Section 4, resetting your dopamine pathways and becoming an attention activist. To actively reverse this neurochemical hijack, Dr. Lemke actually prescribes a highly actionable dopamine fast. Here's how it works. Step 1, take a minimum 1 day completely off all screens if you possibly can. Step 2, and this is the more realistic longer-term goal, abstain from your specific problem apps for 1 entire month. Step 3, that 1 month period is absolutely crucial. It's the minimum time required to allow your brain's reward pathways to physically heal and reset, which significantly decreases your tech-induced anxiety. And finally, step 4, when you do return to those apps, you have to do so with strict, consolidated time limits. This whole process is a big part of what designer Jay Vidyarthi calls attention activism. It is all about reclaiming agency over your tech use without drowning in constant guilt. First, you start with simple awareness of how these apps actually make you feel. Then, you fight design with design by introducing intentional friction. Literally, delete the apps from your home screen so you actually have to search for them. Reject the false urgency by turning off all non-essential notifications immediately. And maybe most importantly, deliberately nurture authentic, real-world connections offline to fill the void that social media leaves behind. Finally, Section 5, batching tasks and deep work, where we completely rebalance your schedule. So how do we actually build a functional work week out of all this? The operational sequence here is absolutely vital. You must always schedule your deep work first. Block out your most cognitively demanding tasks, things like high-level strategy or coding, and cap that time at about 3 to 4 hours a day. Why? Because your brain physically cannot do much more deep work than that anyway. Once that's locked in, take all that greedy, noisy, shallow work, the emails, the Slack messages, the admin, and batch them into fixed short windows, maybe once in the morning and once in the afternoon. But listen to me on this one. Just adding a little block that says deep work to your Google Calendars is nowhere near enough. You have to actively defend that focus. You must create intentional friction for the people trying to reach you. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb. Completely kill your desktop notifications. Set a clear away status on Slack that literally says heads down until 11 a.m. Make those calendar blocks visible to your entire team. You have to protect your mental energy like your livelihood depends on it. Because honestly, in today's world, it kind of does. Because ultimately, we aren't doing all of this strict restructuring just so we can grind harder for our bosses and turn out more spreadsheets. The ultimate goal here is to experience true psychological flow. As the pioneering scientist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi famously said, flow is the deepest form of attention human beings can offer. It's that beautiful, completely egoless state where time just totally falls away because you are completely engaged in a meaningful, appropriately challenging task. That is the true joy of human concentration, and that's exactly what we are trying to win back. Which leaves us with one final, incredibly important question to consider as we wrap up today. What will you build with your reclaimed focus? Once you successfully reset those dopamine pathways, once you finally close all those extra tabs, and once you start fiercely defending your calendar, what amazing things are you going to do with your mind? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer.
Do yourself a favor, start small today. Turn off just one batch of notifications right now and take your attention back. You've got this.